Hey guys, here's a great tip on how to protect some of your assets in the event of a divorce. It's called a domestic asset protection trust. A domestic asset protection trust can be a powerful legal tool for safeguarding assets in various situations, including divorce, custody battles, and alimony disputes. Here's an overview of how a domestic asset protection trust works and how it can offer protection. What is a domestic asset protection trust? A domestic asset protection trust is a type of irrevocable trust designed to protect your assets from creditors, including claims that might arise from a divorce. Unlike other trusts, a domestic asset protection trust allows you to be both the grantor, the person who creates the trust, and a beneficiary, meaning you can still receive distributions from the trust under certain conditions. How a domestic asset protection trust can help in the event of a divorce. Shielding assets from division. Asset protection. Once assets are transferred into a domestic asset protection trust, they generally become protected from creditors, including a spouse in a divorce. This means the assets held in the trust are not part of the marital estate and are therefore not subject to division during divorce proceedings. Irrevocability. Since a domestic asset protection trust is typically irrevocable, it cannot be easily altered or dissolved. This makes it difficult for a spouse to challenge the trust's validity or access the assets within it. Timing considerations. For a domestic asset protection trust to be effective in a divorce, it should be established well before any marital issues arise. Courts may view transfers made shortly before or during divorce proceedings as fraudulent, particularly if the intent is to deprive a spouse of their fair share. Some states have a look-back period during which transfers into a domestic asset protection trust can be scrutinized. If a transfer is found to be fraudulent, the assets might still be subject to division. State-specific laws. Not all states allow domestic asset protection trusts. However, you can establish these trusts in a state that does, even if you reside elsewhere. Common states for domestic asset protection trusts include Alaska, Delaware, Nevada, and South Dakota. It's important to understand the specific laws of the state where the trust is created, including how they handle divorce-related claims. How a domestic asset protection trust can influence custody battles. Impact on custody decisions. Custody decisions are primarily based on the best interests of the child, not financial considerations. However, if a domestic asset protection trust is used to shelter assets, a court might scrutinize whether this has any impact on the child's well-being. If a domestic asset protection trust is perceived as a way to hide assets or avoid financial responsibilities related to the child, it could negatively affect the court's view of the trust holder's credibility. This could potentially influence custody decisions, especially if it appears that the trust was set up to deprive the other parent or the child of support. Child support considerations. While a domestic asset protection trust might protect certain assets, it doesn't necessarily protect all income streams. Courts might look at your overall financial situation, including any distributions you receive from the trust, when determining child support obligations. How a domestic asset protection trust can affect alimony payments. Limiting alimony exposure. Exclusion from marital estate assets in a domestic asset protection trust are generally not considered part of the marital estate, which can limit the amount of alimony you may be required to pay. Since alimony is often calculated based on the assets and income of both parties, reducing the marital estate can result in lower alimony obligations. Income shielding. If structured properly, a domestic asset protection trust can help shield certain income-producing assets, making it harder for those assets to be factored into alimony calculations. However, courts may still look at the overall income available to you, including any discretionary distributions from the trust. Court challenges. While a domestic asset protection trust can be a strong shield, it's not immune to challenges. A spouse may attempt to argue that the trust was created with the intent to avoid financial responsibilities, especially if it was established close to the time of the divorce. However, if the domestic asset protection trust was created long before any marital discord, it's generally more difficult to challenge. In some cases, courts may impute income based on the trust assets, meaning they may assume that the trust is generating income that should be available for alimony, even if you're not currently receiving distributions. Key considerations and best practices. First, early planning. The earlier you set up a domestic asset protection trust, the more effective it is likely to be. Establishing the trust well before any marital issues arise reduces the risk of it being considered a fraudulent transfer. Second, professional guidance. Setting up a domestic asset protection trust requires careful planning and a thorough understanding of state laws. Work with an experienced estate planning attorney who specializes in asset protection to ensure the trust is structured correctly and legally. And third, transparency. While a domestic asset protection trust can be a powerful tool, attempting to use it in a deceptive manner during a divorce, custody battle, or alimony negotiation can backfire. Courts value transparency, and attempting to hide or shield assets dishonestly can lead to severe legal consequences. Final thoughts. A domestic asset protection trust can be an effective strategy for protecting assets from being divided in a divorce, and for managing financial responsibilities related to custody and alimony. However, its effectiveness depends on proper planning, timing, and adherence to legal standards. To ensure the best outcome, it's crucial to approach the creation of a domestic asset protection trust with the help of legal professionals and with full consideration of how it fits into your broader financial and family situation. As always, stay safe, stay strong, and stay vigilant. Men need to be proactive to protect our assets from the gold diggers, and remember to like, share, and subscribe.